Welcome back, everybody. It's the Betting Pros College Football Preview Show. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm joined by Thor Nystrom. Follow him on the Twitter at ThorKU, and Mike Farrell at MFarrell Sports. 2 R's, 2 L's on there. And gentlemen, week 12 is already here. We're 2 weeks away from conference championships. I cannot believe the season has gone this fast, but it always seems like a whirlwind. And before we dive into week 12, Thor, your thoughts on week 11?
Yeah, another crazy week of college football. My cat Felix is trying to get in here to talk about his thoughts on week 11. We're getting to the home stretch here, aren't we? Yeah, and you're getting to the home stretch when a week of college football ends, and then you get this crazy rash of coaching firings.
I love it.
Are still coming. I do too.
Love it. Chip Kelly's gone.
Chip Kelly. Exactly. We had the ones on late Saturday night into Sunday morning, and they're still coming. Mike mentioned Chip Kelly, which that one's a stunner. I'm sure we'll get more into them. Not to you. Was to me.
He didn't want to recruit. He just didn't give a crap about recruiting.
I was very surprised I was even surprised by the Jimbo one. I knew there'd been rumors about that one. Still surprised they went through with that one, but I was surprised that Zach Arnett, they didn't let him finish the season. I was surprised they hired him in the first place, but then they give him the axe. And then I don't know if you guys saw today, Jamie Chadwell, the coach of Liberty, he hadn't finished his first season there. He tweets out like, "Hey, Liberty fans, are you excited for the show tonight?" I guess he does a streaming show, whatever. At the bottom, he had location services on his Twitter.
Dummy.
He sent it from Starkville, Mississippi.
Dummy.
Dummy.
And by the way, what a great hire would that be for Mississippi State? A hire that would harken back to the Dan Mullen days in terms of offensive philosophy. I think that thing would be a slam dunk.
Man, Mike, your reaction to this rash of coaching moves and week 11? Anything?
This is the thing about it that's lovely is like the A&M willing to spend $76 million to get rid of Jimbo raises the bar for everybody. Like now everybody's fireable. Doesn't matter if you've been there 2 years, 1 year, doesn't matter. I mean, Arnett was over his head. I mean, that just was a bad hire. He got rid of all the staff. It was a dumb move. He just wasn't ready. Not even close. That was a mistake. Like, let's just pull the cord on this one. That was a smart move. But yeah, you're willing to pay $76 million to get rid of Jimbo. You can bet there's going to be a rash of firings this year, but especially in the next year. No one's going to be patient anymore with Sunbelt Billy or any of these guys making $8 million. You're gone. We're going to just get the boosters together, fire you all. And it's great for business because, the second someone gets fired, I could crop up 10 candidates to replace them. I could start rumors. I could hear things. I got immediately someone on the phone with me after A&M and just telling me all these names that are on a short list already. So it's firing season. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
my only other takeaway from the games over the weekend, Death Star, Michigan, Death Star, Georgia, they are on an inevitable crash course to meet on the last day of the college football season. Everything else up until then, it's just the appetizers to get there. They obviously held serve. That's Sunbelt Billy. I'll get back to Sunbelt.
Yeah.
He's just,
that's country. What's that song?
That was Neil Brown calling from West Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia.
That's Jimbo calling. That's his new ringtone because he's going to be the next guy for West Virginia.
A West Virginia guy, Jimbo Fisher.
Absolutely.
I wasn't trying to tell the people that it was Jimbo. I was trying to keep him off the sun, but you were right. That was Jimbo.
All right, jumping through a couple technical hoops here, but we will just jump into these games here. And before we get in, I just want to remind college football fans, are you ready to put your betting skills to the test? Join the Betting Pros College Football Podcast Betting Group. Make your picks all season long. And if you're among the top ROI performers, you could win big. Prizes include a signed Garrett Wilson, Ohio State jersey and premium subscriptions to Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. Just make at least 100 picks through the season to qualify. Jump in now at bettingpros.com/college. or in the Betting Pros app under the College Football Podcast group. May the best better win. And even if you're not jumping in the group, it's a great place to keep track of all your bets. And that's for all sports, not just college football. So go ahead and check out the Betting Pros app. But let's start here, Thor. Number 11, Louisville on the road against Miami. The line here is Louisville by 1.5. The total is 46.5. Money and cash on the Louisville side, who have been called a outside playoff shot team here for Louisville. I don't really know if I buy that, but your thoughts on Louisville at Miami, who is on the struggle bus?
This is a tough one for me. It's like, when they put a shiny object in like a tree for a raccoon and they stick their hand in and then they just get trapped there because the raccoon won't let go of it or whatever. That's what this line feels like for me, because you look at it and you're like, you immediately just want to grab for it with Louisville. Because who wants to bet on Miami? They've been so terrible recently. And then the Emory Williams kid got hurt at the end of the last game against Florida State. Ostensibly means they have to go forward with Tyler Van Dyke. Tyler Van Dyke, is he healthy? Is his head right?
He was named the starter, so
well, I mean, yes, but is he 100% healthy? Right? Like, I mean, he came in at the end of the last game when Emory Williams got hurt, right, but he wasn't starting that game. So is he 100% physically healthy, and is his head 100% right? To those questions, I don't know. Why was he not starting the last game if the answer to both those questions is a definitive yes? When he played the full game the week before, he was terrible, and he did not look right. And then again, he did not start the last game. And that appeared to be, by the way, the 100% objectively correct decision. The Emory Williams kid, he played pretty well. And Miami was giving Florida State a run for their money. They ended up losing 27.
Man, he died a hero, man. Because he crossed, he got that first down, and then they were talking about it on the sideline that he was just in agony. It was hard to watch.
The compound fractures. It's disgusting.
Tough scene. So, Tyler Van Dyke will be starting in this one. You wonder about that. Emory, again, Williams was playing pretty well, and the team was playing pretty well behind him. What do we see from Tyler Van Dyke in this game? Miami returns home in it. For those reasons, that makes it tough for me. I hate to say it. I think I would lean Miami in this game. Ooh. I don't know if I will be able to get to the window on it, but I have to go against the raccoon shiny object inclination when I first saw this line.
Farrell, I see you shaking your head there. You are on Louisville here.
I'll be much quicker. Tyler Van Dyke stinks. I don't care if he's physically healthy, but mentally he's not there. He's horrible. Ja'Cory Brown is obviously not good at all. And he started Emory Williams because Mario has to start, he's got a lot of young guys in this team. There's a lot of freshmen. He's got to find somebody that can move forward. He took a shot. He figured it wasn't going to beat Florida State anyways. Start the young guy. Now he's hurt. They're back to Van Dyke. Forget it. Louisville's going to destroy him. This is a gift. This is a gift from the heavens. This is a low line. Take Louisville. Just don't even question. I know the raccoon thing. I get it. Sometimes lines look fishy. Somebody knows something in Vegas. There's nothing to know here. Miami's not good. Tyler Van Dyke stinks, and Louisville's going to win.
All right, let's go to number 23, Tulane, a 9.5-point road favorite at FAU. 47.5 is the total in this one, Mike. Do you have a good lean one way or the other? Because the cash is on Tulane, but the tickets are just slightly, cash is heavily on Tulane. The tickets are just slightly on FAU here.
I'd put my cash on Tulane too. I mean, they've been playing well. Obviously, early in the season, Pratt wasn't playing. It was very difficult to gauge how good this team is. They had a lot of returning players, especially on the offensive line. You expected a big season. It didn't go great at the beginning, but they've righted the ship. Tremendous coaching job here. FAU, 9.5 is a lot. I get it, but I'm going to take that. I'm going to lay the 9.5 points. I think Tulane is fighting for a lot more than FAU is at this point in time, and I think they're probably going to win this one double digits.
Mr. Nystrom, you have a good feel one way or the other in this Tulane FAU game?
I do, actually. Felix has jumped back up on my lap. He wants to be involved in this show. I like FAU in this game. When you go into week 12, not only we were talking about the coach firings before, you also get into the discrepancy of motivation, handicapping as well, which we'll talk more and more about week 13 and then into bowl season as well. we have that in this game. FAU needs this one to stay alive for bowl season. Obviously, they have the first year coach in Tom Herman. And Tulane on the other side, they may be without 3 of their top wide receivers again. We've seen the manifestation of that in their offense the last few games out. Tulane is 9-1, but they have not won by more than a field goal since October 21st. They have not won by more than a touchdown in over a month. Even though they've been playing some down opponents during that time, this number would require them to do so on the road over a team that desperately needs a victory, as I was saying. And not for nothing, FAU has a really, really, really good run defense. It's the best thing that they do as a team. Obviously, if Tulane's wide receiver room is devastated by injuries again, as it's looking like it will be, then Tulane needs to lean into their run offense again. That's what FAU will be ready for in this game. I'm taking the points with the home team that desperately needs a victory in this game.
To me, when in doubt, bet against Tom Herman. So I think I'm with Mike on that one. Let's go to number 18, Utah, at number 21, Arizona. And this line, you can get either team favored depending on which book you go to. So it is a little flip-floppy. I'm going to go with Arizona -1 as the line. 44.5 is the total here. Thor, do you have a good feel one way or the other between Utah at Arizona?
I don't. This is a really tough one. You know, it's one where depending on the glint of the light as you're looking at it, you could sort of talk yourself into the handicap one way or the other.
Is the dress white and black or white and gold or blue and black? Or which one? That's this game.
Yeah, like Utah's like old reliable, you know, with Whittingham, the grizzle vet, you know, you trust them, you know, time has come to tell you that. And then Arizona, it's like, you know, the gif of the guy where he's with his girlfriend, but then he's like looking back at the new attractive girl. That's Arizona Wildcats and Jet Fish. Like we all love what we've seen from them this year. And this line, you know, Vegas is telling us like, you guys figure it out. And it's been hard for me this week. You know, I'm studying this one. I'm looking into the advanced numbers. I've seen a lot of these teams this year, and it's tough for me. You know, last week, you know, obviously Utah, they lost by a touchdown to Washington in Seattle. They were able to cover that game barely, you know, by the touchdown, whatever. I think that line, you know, ended at 8.5, 9, whatever. And then Arizona played a little bit down in that game against Colorado. They won by a field goal. They didn't cover in that one. The adjusted scoring margin post game though final score wasn't indicative of quality of play. Adjusted scoring margin at the end, Arizona by 16 in that one. I do not have a lean on this one. Flip a coin. I don't even have a lean. I will not be betting this game.
Mr. Farrell, you have a good feeling one way or the other between Utah and Arizona? Or are you with Thor where Vegas is telling us to pick it?
I mean, not a great feel, but I'm going to go Utah. They've made me money most of the season. You know, they've had a few. The Oregon game was obviously not what I expected, but, you know, they covered last week. I know it was a fluky cover, but if you're going to bet on a team, you know, and bet on a coach who's going to scheme properly, who's not going to make dumb in-game decisions and put yourself in trouble, it's Kyle Whittingham in the Pac-12. And I like what Jed Fish is doing at Arizona. I mean, geez, they've been a big surprise this season, but Utah is still Utah. I mean, they've been there, done that. I think they're ready to sort of, you know, not send a message here. I mean, they can't really do that with the quarterback situation that, you know, started the season where it's amazing to think we thought Cam Rising would play week 1 and, you know, he wasn't going to play the entire season. Honestly, Whittingham should pay back some bets for allowing that farce to occur and for us to think for the first 4 weeks of the season that he might play. But I just like their defense. I like the way they're playing. I still don't trust Arizona fully. They didn't cover against Colorado. They've covered okay this season, but not great. Utah has covered quite a bit. So give me Utah on this one. I'm not betting it though. But if you're asking me to pick a side, I'm taking Utah.
All right, so we had some technical difficulties with Mike. I think the internet went out at the hotel he's staying at. So we're going to go ahead and trudge ahead without him. So Thor, we will go to the SEC. Number 2, Georgia at number 13, Tennessee. Georgia is a 10.5-point road favorite. 58.5 is the total here. Cash on UGA, tickets on UGA. and the under on both sides as well. So how do you see this one going?
You can tell the audience the truth that Jimbo Fisher called Farrell for an emergency meeting and said, I need advice about my next stop. And Farrell said, boys, I have to run.
What's the next move? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So Farrell was called into action. He had to put on the Superman suit and fly out. This is an interesting handicap, and I feel like the at least what my system's indicating to me, and probably from a traditional handicapping perspective, the smart play would probably be to sniff around Tennessee. On sort of the contrarian angle. Tennessee coming off of getting smacked around. Georgia coming off of looking like the world beater, like I was mentioning before, the Death Star, in addition to the Michigan Death Star, it is inevitable. So, this should be obvious to take, Georgia's going to slap them around, take Georgia. But my system has a line on this one at Georgia -8.5. So it's showing a bit of line value on the home team in Tennessee. We have seen over and over again that Tennessee plays better at home. It would make sense if Georgia let off the gas a little bit here in this scenario. Now, 1 week after you're heading to Tennessee in this game, it would make sense. Tennessee has a big bounce back performance heading back home. So, all that being said, 1 week after those games, I don't think I can back Tennessee in this spot.
It's tough to bet against Georgia.
Market certainly is not. This line now is toggled up to 10.5 and whatnot. So this is probably going to be a stay away for me because I certainly can't lay it with Georgia either with what my system is saying. And so many times in the past, getting burned in the spot, what I know, what not. Probably going to be a stay away for me. But if I had to bet it, I think I would take those points at Tennessee.
All right, let's go to number 24, North Carolina at Clemson. Clemson is a 7-point home favorite. 58.5 is a total here. Tickets slightly on Clemson, but the cash is on the Tar Heels. Nothing available for the total, just not enough bets in on that yet as we record. Do you have a good lean one way or the other here, Thor?
Not only do I have a lean on this one, I have a ticket on this one. I really like North Carolina in this game. And so does my system. My line on this game is Clemson -2.2. So I'm showing legitimate value on the road team in this game over multiple key numbers. See it as more of a coin flip type game. Clemson bit overblown. They did get Will Shipley back in the last game, but I think Phil Moff is better. They should probably just give all.
He was great.
Yeah, I think they should just give all the touches to Maffa. So any extra touches that Shipley gets, it probably doesn't help the offense any. And meanwhile, North Carolina's offense speaks for itself. Even if Clemson doesn't, the game doesn't end up being the coin flip that I think it will be, or that my system thinks that it will be, the North Carolina is always in play to come in through the back door with where this line is around a touchdown. So I'm taking the points with North Carolina, and I think the guy's shot to win this one outright.
All right. Now, before we go on to the rest of the games, I want to tell you guys to download the free Betting Pros app for iOS and Android. Use Sportsbook Sync to automatically track your bets across all major sports books in one spot. Easily track your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Get personalized bet recommendations tailored to your interests, including line alerts. When viewing a game of interest, simply set a game notification so that you are alerted once a line hits a certain number. At that point, you'll be notified so you can lock in your bet at that ideal line. Head over to bettingpros.com/apps to start setting your alerts now, or download the Betting Pros app in the iTunes or Google Play stores today. Let's go to the Big Ten here, Thor. Number 22, Iowa hosting Illinois. 3.5 is the line for Iowa in favor of them. 30.5 is the total here. Also, shout out to Iowa for downing it at the 2 and keeping the under once again in their last game. Tickets are on Iowa and the under. What a surprise here, right? So is this going to be yet another under for the Hawkeyes?
Yeah, I mean, you always have to bet the under for the Hawkeyes. And devastating news out of Iowa City today. I don't know if you saw it, but Tory Taylor, the baddest of all punters in America, announced that he's going to be going to the NFL next year.
Oh man,
that hurt.
Yeah, let's get him in the Senior Bowl now that underclassmen can go. So
that's for sure. Yeah, that hurt. Torrey the leg was a fun punter to watch these last couple of years, and obviously, Iowa's entire strategy on both offense and defense was sort of based around using Torrey as a weapon. Iowa coming off the 22-0 win against Rutgers, just classic Iowa football. That was a good time. Illinois, they had an interesting one. They had that shootout against Indiana, 48-45, where Altmaier gets injured. John Paddock comes in and throws for over 500 yards. John Paddock, a guy who last year started at Ball State next to Carson Steele. Carson Steele, the guy who transferred to UCLA and is a UCLA starting running back. And Paddock then was the backup to Luke Altmaier at Illinois. So it's, sort of made a wonky decision in terms of that. But then comes in off the bench cold, throws for over 500 yards in this win. We'll see if Altmaier ends up being healthy enough to go in this game, but maybe Paddock should be starting anyway, based on that. Altmaier has a concussion, so might not be able to come back anyway. And it would make sense if Paddock has some dormant arm talent, or at least it would be explainable. In that Ball State system, I watched a lot of it on MACtion, with the weeknight games, whatnot. They had 3 receivers at least that were always out wide, sometimes even 4. And then they would have Paddock. He was always in the top 2 or 3 in the nation in terms of quickest release time in the nation, because they would just do quick hitting passes right after he got the ball when they would throw to
this
distance.
Is a Kurt Warner scenario here.
Like just immediate, funnel screens and different nonsense like that right out to the perimeter, essentially to disincentivize defenses from stacking the box against Carson Steele. And then so they would thin out the boxes, and then Carson Steele would just break tackles, right? The Tim Riggins kid that they had, you can now see in Westwood. So you never got to see Paddock read the defenses or fling it downfield, anything like that. He got to do a little bit of that on Saturday, and it's like, John Paddock. And Paddock, his dad or his uncle or something had played at Illinois. So that's why he ended up choosing them. Maybe they ran into something with John Paddock. They're going to need it on Saturday.
Altmaier wasn't working. So
yeah, Altmaier just, he scrambles around, that's, and he had a recruiting pedigree. They had gotten him from Ole Miss. So maybe Bert Bielema, our bud over there, maybe he felt like he had to go with Altmaier, whereas Paddock, maybe he wasn't quite as sexy as far as the pedigree goes. But Iowa, getting back to them, has an elite pass defense, one of the 3 best in the nation. So if it is indeed Paddock, he's going to need throwing chops in this game. Certainly, they're going to need to be viable. The line, as all Iowa games are, even against uninspiring competition, is very low in this game. With 3.5 still, Bogman live.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My system has this thing higher, closer to a touchdown. I would lean Iowa in this game if I was going on the side. The over under, around 30. I'd probably lean under in that thing too. Iowa going to be.
How can you take? You can't take the over. I mean,
you can't take the over. You can't take the over in any Iowa game. I mean, the under. Iowa scored over 20 points in the last one. You rarely see that, and it still easily got the under. So I'm going to lean Iowa and the under in that one as well. Illinois is not a good team, but I am interested to watch Paddock if Paddock indeed gets that start for all the reasons I mentioned.
All right, let's go to a big game for you, Thor. Number 25, K-State, an 8-point road favorite at number 16, Kansas. 56 is the total here. And this one is split. Tickets on KU, cash on State. Not enough bets on the total here for us to have any info there. But I know Rock Chalk is what you're all about here, but can you take them against K-State, who is very tough?
Yeah, I know. During my last comments, there was a portion of the audience out there that's like, "This is ridiculous. I'm going to shut this show off." Nystrom's he's being a homer. He's just being pro Iowa because he's being a homer. These comments are worthless. Let me buy back some goodwill here. Everybody knows how much I love Kansas, and everybody by extension knows how much I hate Kansas State. I will have a Kansas State ticket in pocket this week. I'm laying it with the Wildcats, as much as I will hate cashing that ticket if indeed that ends up happening. Let me explain why. I don't want that result to occur. It's just that I think that it will, which is why I need to buy that ticket. The reason why is Kansas was 7-2 heading into last week against Texas Tech, right? And they, ended that game as they were 3.5-point favorites during the week. I think it closed at 4, right? Jalen Daniels, their quarterback, has been injured since, past month or so. Mr. Bean, my boy, the quarterback to Jason Bean, he'd been starting during that time. Mostly has been pretty good. During the Texas Tech game, unfortunately, he suffers a concussion. That meant, most unfortunately, the Kansas had to go down to QB3 on the depth chart. And even more unfortunately, Kansas did not have a scholarship quarterback at quarterback 3. The kid, they didn't even have a sophomore. The third quarterback on the depth chart is a kid named Cole Ballard, who is a freshman walk-on. Cole Ballard came in and was not impressive. I mean, like, for a freshman walk-on, he was okay. He's a freshman friggin' walk-on.
Right.
And at least he got them to the end of the game where, incredibly, they had a shot actually to win, and they did get a field goal to tie it. And then Texas Tech went down, and then they kicked their field goal to win. This one is it. So the line in this game is Kansas State -8. What that is doing is not baking in the quarterback injury whatsoever. That is why there is value on Kansas State, much as I hate to say it. My system's line on this game is Kansas State -11.4. Again, this line, it's in a reality where Jason Bean is healthy. Right? The indications that we have gotten from Lance Leopold this week, they don't seem to suggest that Bean is going to play. It's like, oh, we're hopeful and yada yada. But unless there is a miracle, with that, and generally with the concussion protocol, you don't get those. I don't think we're going to see Jason Bean. So barring that, certainly whenever you're listening to this, check on the most recent news on Jason Bean. But assuming that it's going to be Ballard, again, with this line beneath 10, that it's not baking in that Ballard is going to be starting. Kansas State, this line needs to be above 10 if Cole Ballard is starting for KU. It just is what it is. So I have to be on Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect Preston Stone to play on Friday, and he did end up playing. So you never know with concussion protocol in college and all that stuff. So like Thor said, just make sure you're double checking, if Bean is going to play or not for that game. Let's go to the Pac-12. Number 5, Washington at number 12, Oregon State, who is a 2.5-point home favorite. The Beavers are 63.5 is total here. Tickets on Oregon State, cash on Oregon State, just slightly. Same thing for the over for tickets, but the under for cash, just slightly. So this game seems to be a little split. How are you feeling about this big Pac-12 matchup?
Hard lean to Oregon State. Oregon State, how some football players, they're like, my life's a movie. I feel like that's Oregon State these last couple weeks. The jilted lover who gets a shot to end the dreams of these couple Pac-12 teams that want to go to the playoffs. I mean, you couldn't have written it any better. Washington now has to head to Corvallis. They're 10-0. Washington's having their dream season. And now the team that they abandoned and they're in injunctions with in the courtroom and all this different stuff, they have to head to Corvallis, where Oregon State plays awesome, and play this team where Oregon State seems to have been built from the ground up to directly confront the stuff that Washington does well. Like, it's like a living nightmare for DeBoer. It's the one team that you would not want to face in this scenario. It's like a Stephen King book or movie or whatever. So Oregon State is going to spend 3.5 hours dragging that Washington team out into deep waters, and we're going to see if they can swim. That's what this thing is going to come down to. Your concern for Washington, that teams have figured out in the last month how to defend Penix, how to keep that high-flying passing attack down to earth. McMillan has been hurt. That's been a part of it. Now it's the 2 receivers you have to defend now. Washington has tried to counter in recent weeks by going to more 2 tight end sets. Now we're going to be multiple. Now we're going to bring in Bernard off the bench. Now we got 3 receivers again. Now we're bringing back in the 2 tight ends. Now we're running more with Dylan Johnson. That's been happening a lot more the last couple of weeks. Now we're going to try to be more balanced, different stuff like that. So they're trying to throw more stuff at you, but it hasn't led to a better offense, not a more high-flying offense, certainly. again, Oregon State, this is the kind of team that Washington does not want to confront here. They can slow the game down a bit more, but this Oregon State team, they can put points on the board with you if the game goes in that direction. So if Washington putting points on the board, now that Oregon State has DJU, they can do stuff in the throwing game, but they can also do multiple things with the running game. They already have Martinez. They already had the good offensive line, but DJU, he gives you an extra element of efficiency on the ground from the quarterback position, but he can also, of course, he's always been able to throw down the field, and he's also given him a little bit extra element in the throwing game besides that, certainly than they were getting last year when they just had the two immobile guys that were throwing interceptions and didn't give him anything with regards to that. I like Oregon State in this game. I think Oregon State's gonna knock off Washington here and write them out of the playoff.
I'm okay with that because my Longhorns are at number 7 and looking for a couple teams to go down, and they are on the road at Iowa State. The line here is the Longhorns by 7.5 road favorites. 48 is the total. Tickets on Iowa State, cash just slightly on Texas, and that flipped in the last 24 hours. Tickets and cash on the under in this game. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks, a big part of the Texas offense towards ACL. Done for the season. I do like Baxter, obviously less experience as a freshman, and don't know if he can handle the full workload, but there's a lot of backs at Texas, so Brooks is a big missing piece. I'm not crazy worried about it, but the environment at Iowa State is tough. It always is. I say this every year because it's been true for the last 2 decades, basically. Texas loves to drop a weird one. They haven't done it yet. They tried to against Kansas State. They tried to against TCU. They raise my blood pressure every single Saturday, Thor. What am I in for this Saturday?
This was one where at first blush, I felt sort of the same way, that I was sort of talking about with the Oregon State one, not quite to the degree of the bullishness, but where it was like, this is one where Texas could be in trouble, because we've seen that so often, with teams going to Ames, getting picked off. Iowa State has played so well recently. Texas, they just got Ewers back. The TCU game, you had pointed that one out, how tough TCU's been to them recently, and indeed that's what happened again. Texas only won by 3 in that one. Now Brooks, who was awesome this year, either the top
he was putting together a top
awesome
Walker
season.
at least, and maybe awesome an invite to New York. So
he was either the top running back on everyone's board for the next draft or top 2. Right. I mean, consensus, right? You lose a guy like that really hurts. And then again, Ewers has just gotten back. So you're reacclimating the offense to that. Now you have to reconstitute the offense with Brooks leaving now. And now that you go to the young backs. So there's a lot of moving parts of that. And now you have to go to Ames, a night game. That's a really tough place to play. So initially it's like, yeah, I'm probably going to be grabbing the points there. But the more I think about this one, I don't know that I'm going to take the points with Iowa State. This is probably going to end up being a stay away for me. And maybe it was my system that ended up talking me out of it, like out of the wash. My line on this one, Texas minus 11.7 points. So not quite the value that I thought I was going to get out of it. Iowa State, though, again, they've been playing well outside of the Kansas game a couple weeks ago. They ended up losing that one at home. That was a spot where they did not get the Ames magic in that one, lost 28-21. But Iowa State did deck BYU, a bad BYU team, last week by almost 30 points in that game. A lot of these teams that Iowa State has been beating recently during this good run, they've been the bad teams: BYU, Baylor, Cincinnati, TCU's backup quarterback to an extent. We'll see in this game, but like I said, I think it's going to be a stay away for me. My system likes Texas. The spot would seem to indicate Iowa State. I'm going to stay away from it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, my reasoning for, my pessimism about Texas is not only does Texas love to drop one of these games late, but this is the last time through the Big 12, and everyone is trying to give Texas their best shot. So it's making some close games here at the end, but it looks like there's a chance Texas could speed bump everybody in the Big 12 on their way out of town, which is obviously what I want to see. The one loss they have is the other team going to the SEC in Oklahoma. Let's go to the last game up here. Florida on the road at number 14, Missouri. The line is Missouri by 11.5. The total is 59. Tickets and cash on Missouri and the over in this game. Is there any other way you can go? I mean, Florida was just embarrassed by LSU. You would think maybe they want to try to save face in this game, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, my line being Missouri minus 10.5. I will say there is a lot of motivation on the Florida side, not only on the roster, which needs this game for bowl purposes, but also for Sunbelt Billy, as Farrell was saying before he was called out by Jimbo Fisher, already a part of the Fired Coaches Coalition. And Sunbelt Billy is just trying not to join him. He could badly use this win. Who knows if he'll be able to get it? Certainly the line would suggest not, and maybe the eye test would suggest that he won't be able to get it. But motivation is on their side. Missouri looked fabulous last week, and Florida is on that 3-game skid. But yeah, it's getting late early for Florida if they do want to make the postseason, because you have this game, and then I believe next week is Florida State. You're probably not going to win that game. So
yep.
This is your best shot. And then because they're 5-5 right now at the Gators, next season, Bogman, as you know, Florida, they turn to what is the most gruesome schedule I may have ever seen.
Michigan has a really rough schedule. Yeah, there are a couple just brutal runs.
Yeah,
for 2024 coming up.
Florida's 2024 schedule it's like that Ring movie. You ever see that movie, The Ring, where it's just like a horror show? That's Florida's schedule next year. So anyway, they could badly use this game. Motivation would be where you could maybe talk yourself into them a little bit, taking those points. I don't trust Florida, of course. We talked about this thing over and over and over again. I'm probably, though, going to end up staying away from this game just because of that. If there was ever a game for Florida and Billy Napier to throw the kitchen sink into, it would be this game, right? And then Missouri, again, you were mentioning they come off the exhalation of the 36-7 win. Is this going to be another kitchen sink game? I wouldn't think so against Florida. And then the week before that, it was that near miss against Georgia, the 30-21 game. Are they going to have another A+ effort in this one? I don't know about that. So those would be the factors where you could talk yourself into taking the 11, whatever. I probably won't be on it, but I think I've talked myself into a bit of a lean on Florida.
All right, Thor, before we leave, any other games that you're feeling really great that you want to tell the people about?
Yeah, I got a couple leans. I'll give you one in the trash bin. I have a lean on East Carolina plus 2.5 at Navy. This is one where there's not a motivation discrepancy. In fact, Navy is the team there that could still make a bowl game. I just think ECU matches up really well against Navy in that ECU has a really good run defense. The only thing they do well.
Michigan in week 1, they did okay against Michigan. Yeah. I thought for their offense was terrible, but they stopped the run decently.
Yeah, exactly. And Navy has a horrific pass defense, and ECU throws way more than they run. So I just think it's a good on-field matchup for them. The other one that I like that down there in the G5, Arkansas State catching 3.5 against Texas State. Texas State has a weird thing going on with their quarterback situation right now that I don't know what's going on with that situation. TJ Finley did not come out in the second half against Coastal Carolina. They played Malik Hornsby the entire second half of that game, and what was a close game, Malik Hornsby can't throw. Texas State already tried to switch him positions this year to running back, which Arkansas previously did earlier in his career. They switched him to wide receiver. Both these teams already figured out he cannot play quarterback. Hornsby threw for 32 yards in the second half. Again, in one possession loss for Texas State. But then after the game, so it's like TJ Finley, of course, hurt. He's a guy who's closing in on 3,000 yards. He's played really well this year as Texas State has gotten back to they're bowl eligible already. They were 6-2, I think, heading into that game, 6-3. And so, of course, he had to be hurt, right? Like, for you to play Hornsby the entire second half. Kenny, the coach for them, GJ Kinney, after the game said that Finley was not hurt. And so it's like, wait, what? You benched him? Like, none of it made any sense. And then he said that, I
run that mouth. That's what I'm assuming there.
It's just a very strange situation. And there was just weird vibes about that team. The week before is where they had clinched the bowl thing. And I don't know if they were flat, if there was just weird vibes about it. But anyhow, I set all that up to say this. This week they traveled to Arkansas State, the Fighting Butch Joneses, who badly struggled the last couple of years. The first couple of weeks this year, they were struggling again. And everyone in the world, including myself, thought Butch Jones was about to walk the Green Mile. And he was, if they hadn't turned it around. Then they put in this new young quarterback that no one had ever heard of. Turned out he was really good. Ever since then, they have turned their fortunes around. Now they are on the precipice of a bowl. They only need one more win. And now Texas State is coming in. Texas State, a team that they jumped into like this local lake that when they got their 6th win. And apparently they've decided, they're still celebrating. They're, whatever. Arkansas State, they're waiting to jump into their own lake. And now they're catching 3.5 points at home against the Texas State team that apparently they just want to get to their bowl game. Take them. I think Arkansas State is winning at home, springing an upset against Texas State, and then it's going to be celebration time in wherever the heck Arkansas State is located.
All right. Well, that will wrap it up for us this week. And hopefully Mike will be back from his meeting with Jimbo Fisher next week, and we will see you guys then. Remember, you can follow us all on the Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at Thor KU for Thor, and at M Farrell Sports for Farrell. 2 R's, 2 L's, and we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.